Hello, everybody. It is Friday, May the 3rd, 2024, and it's time for a brand new episode of AMA Air. Coming up today, we've got our Government Affairs Senior Director, Tyler Dobbs, joining us to talk about the FAA Reauthorization Bill.
I have an interview with Robb with Tree Aerodrome.
And we're going to recap some awesome events that took place over the last few weeks. All that and more coming up today on AMA Air. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a brand new live episode of AMA Air. My name is Matt Ruddick.
Hi, guys. I'm Lee Ray.
Lee, how are things going on down there in the great state of Texas?
I got my galoshes on. It's very, very wet down here. We've got a lot of flooding up north, and I'm hoping all my flying buddies are able to get out of town and go hit some fun events this weekend.
Heck yeah, or put the floats on, one of the two.
You're going to have to, man.
Well, we've got a whole lot of stuff to get to today, so we don't want to waste a whole lot of time. We want to get right into it. Coming up just a little bit, we're going to hear from Robb Williams. Lee talked to him. We're going to hear about Joe Nall and about that amazing event and what's going to be happening this year. But before we get to that, we want to talk to one of our favorite guests we have on this show. It is Tyler Dobbs. He is our Senior Director of Government Affairs here at the AMA, and we want to welcome him to the show. Tyler, hello, sir. Welcome to AMA Air.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate you both having me on.
Absolutely. So we have heard through the grapevine, and by the grapevine we mean from you, that there is some updates and some developments going on with regard to FAA reauthorization. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure, happy to. As most of the viewers remember, over the past year, really, both the House and the Senate have been working on reauthorizing the FAA, something that takes place every 1 to 5 years, depending on the length of the bill that's passed each time. The last reauthorization was a 5-year bill that expired in 2023. And so they've been operating on what's called a continuing resolution, or essentially kicking the can down the road since the end of September of last year. Well, the House passed their version of the bill back in 2023. The Senate passed their version of the bill in 2024. Over the last few weeks, both the House and the Senate have been working together to turn those two bills into one that's essentially mutually agreed upon between both chambers. And that language came out on Monday morning. So we now have a version of the bill that reflects what both the House, the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee that oversees aviation in the House, and the Senate Commerce Committee that oversees aviation in the Senate, both of those have come to this agreement and come to one bill, essentially. I won't get into too much procedures, but essentially the Senate has now taken the House bill. They've made their tweaks to the House bill, and they're debating and discussing that bill. So even though they have both passed the bill, they now both need to pass a final version, and I can talk about that here in a bit. But we do have language, and we know what to expect when both chambers pass this final version, and it's ultimately signed into law by the president.
So I guess the question probably a lot of people have right now hearing that is, what can we expect to see in this final bill? Are there any major surprises? What are the wins that we think we're going to get out of this?
Sure.
What should folks expect if they haven't had a chance to read this language yet?
Sure. So, and there are no real surprises. As you two are aware, AMA's been working with Congress on this language literally since the last bill passed in 2018, and trying to fix some of the issues that we faced since that bill. And many of the issues are fixed or will be fixed when this new bill is signed into law. Our number one question and concern that we have is we need to fly higher. We need higher altitudes. And this bill addresses that. It puts in place a process to allow us to go to the FAA and say, look, we have a we have a site, we have an event or something like that, we need day-to-day operations above 400 feet at this uncontrolled airspace location. We will be able to request and ultimately get those altitudes for day-to-day operations. We're thankful that we were able to find a solution for sanctioned events, and we have that national authorization. That's great, but that doesn't help us with day-to-day, and this new law will. We will be able to get you higher at your sites to be able to, do the things that you needed to do, soaring and so forth. It also requires that the FAA bring AMA and CBOs to the table when clubs in controlled airspace want to fly higher. We need to put a quicker process in place for those requests. We currently have a process, the clubs in controlled airspace that have went through safety risk management panels and ultimately gotten higher altitudes. We've been able to do dozens of those, but that's over a 5-year span. We need to make that process much more streamlined, much quicker. And we think this legislation will allow for that. The bill also corrects some large model aircraft issues that we were facing. It better clarifies that large model aircraft in our community, those aircraft 55 pounds to 125 pounds, can take place at all of our flying sites regardless of the location. So that clarification will be useful in the future, and it will result in us not having to make the arguments that we had to make over the last 5 years. So we're happy about that. It requires that the FAA prioritize FRIA requests. That's not when this portion of the bill was drafted. That was a year and a half ago. And Lee, you're well aware, we are far from where we were a year and a half ago in terms of FRIA requests or authorizations to fly without remote ID. A year and a half ago, we had a stack of hundreds or probably even into the thousands. Since then, we've been able to find some streamlined processes, and most everybody who's put in a FRIA request has either gotten that or an authorization to fly without remote ID. We're literally, we're at a handful that we're still working on, but ultimately we remain optimistic we'll find a solution to them as well. But regardless, this tells the FAA, hey, if you get a FRIA request, these folks want to comply with the remote ID rule, you need to make that request a priority. If you deny them, you need to adjudicate that issue with the person who put in that request and find a solution to it. So that's good. It addresses educational operations as well and better clarifies that education at all levels can now be done through the recreational rules. Yeah. That's something AMA's worked on now for years. Back in 2018, it only allowed for university level UAS operations to fall under these recreational rules. So AMA worked with the Armed Services Committee and were able to get a provision in there to allow other levels and through CBOs and chartered clubs and things like that to utilize education and the recreational rules. This goes even farther and basically says if you're at elementary, secondary, or any higher level of educational institute, you can fly under these rules, which is great. It won't require that they go out and get a Part 107 remote pilot certificate now, which is obviously absurd for kids in elementary school. It corrects that problem, so that's great news. It also provides funding for it provides the ability to have funding for the Know Before You Fly campaign through 2028. And I'll mention that this bill funds and authorizes the FAA the way it currently stands through 2028. So 4 years instead of the 5 years that was through the last bill. But that Know Before You Fly campaign is really important because for a lot of folks, the general public, that's their only source of information. And Lee, you work on the Know Before You Fly campaign with AMA and AUVSI, CTA, and the FAA. We have regular meetings on how can we get more education out to those who aren't aware. How do we get more UAS into classrooms and STEM curriculum and things like that. This funding makes that all possible and available. So that's certainly good news. Those are the largest portions of the bill and what we can expect. There are other areas of the bill that obviously will have an impact on AMA. Those are or could have an impact on AMA. Those are quite a few and probably too much to mention here, but I will mention some of the larger ones that we don't expect to be a major issue, but it's something that we will be keeping an eye on as it's implemented and as things progress to ensure that there isn't a negative impact on our community and the hobby in general. One of those is the FAA is tasked to see if the network remote ID solution, so like an internet-based remote ID solution, can meet the current remote ID rule. Many in the commercial industry feel that it will be able to. We think that that's where things are going, is network remote ID rather than these broadcast modules. What we don't want to do is see anybody, especially the recreational community, end up with a service provider that a monthly fee is associated to, something along those lines. We've already been in talk with large companies that fly UAS and create UAS software on the commercial side of things, and gotten their verbal agreement, their commitment to AMA and the modeling community that network-based solutions should also be free for the recreational community. If it goes down this road, they would work with us, they would support us to ensure that any network-based solution could possibly be as simple as, like, if you've ever used the Lance app, maybe you open up an app and you self-declare your location. Hey, I'm going to be at this location operating. Put a little quarter nautical mile bubble around me, and somebody will know that, me, Tyler Dobbs, I'm flying at this location. If we could go the route of that, still have the free options, but have the route of something pushing a button on the days I fly, and it's free of charge, that is something that I think we would be willing to discuss and negotiate on. I think a lot of people would be able to tolerate that more than adding a broadcast module on their aircraft and, purchasing it. So we're not saying that this is a bad thing by any means, but we want to safeguard against somebody trying to turn this into a moneymaker where we're paying $5 a month to have our aircraft tracked. That's something we couldn't accept. So. The other thing that we'll be keeping a close eye on is there was a provision in the recreational section of the bill that says that the FAA will develop a process to approve and publicly disseminate information regarding fixed flying sites. We think that our fixed flying sites have already received FAA approval just because they've taken federal action. Our sites have had a NEPA, or a National Environmental Protection Act, review to ensure that we don't have an environmental impact on that. In addition, they have been granted, almost every one, FRIA status or this national authorization. So just through that alone, we feel that our sites would be grandfathered in. What we don't want to do is have future sites, if you move locations or something along, or you want to add a site, that you have to go through some federal process to get that flying site approved. So I don't think that will be the issue. I mean, as with what we have seen with the FAA in this last year, a lot of these things are being turned over to the CBO, like AMA, through national authorizations to exempt ourselves from remote ID for events or altitudes and those types of things. I think it would be similar. Hey, come up with guidelines on where and types of airspace safe operations can take place, and we'll look to the CBOs to ensure that you don't set up at a sensitive location in some protected military airspace or something along those lines. So those aren't we don't think those are going to be big issues, but it's something we're going to keep an eye on. And for our specific section of the bill, we think that those are some of the best news and a couple things to keep an eye on.
Well, at this point, Tyler, I guess what are our next steps? Obviously, you said that the text of the bill has kind of been in conference with both chambers of Congress. What are we expecting to see? How long are we expecting this to take?
So again, I don't want to dive too much into procedure, but the Senate basically took that House version and just created a new bill off of it. They're going to pass it first. We were hoping that it would get passed this week. Unfortunately, since this is kind of, rather than to avoid dragging it out any further, they conferenced the bill together and turned it into one before the Senate passed their own version through the full floor. In doing so, there hasn't been a process yet to allow amendments in the Senate. So the House and the Senate are trying to find out, how can we allow amendments through the Senate to be added to this text outside of the Aviation Committee. Obviously, if I'm a senator and I'm not on this aviation committee, I fly all the time, every few days. I still have something I want in this bill. Why don't I get a say? Why don't I get to put forward an amendment on that. So they want to make sure everybody's voice is heard, and they're trying to figure that out. They left for the weekend, unfortunately. So they're going to pick it up. They're going to pick it up next week. We think they will find a path forward. Unfortunately, with elections coming up, this FAA bill will likely be the last large piece of legislation or large vehicle where any legislation can be attached to it before the elections. They're going to pass this, and it's going to kind of shut down in Washington. Because of that, there's going to be a lot of non-aviation, non-FAA things attached to it. One discussion is money for the bridge in Baltimore to get that, funded and clean up and all of that. There's a host of things like that people want to attach. So that's going to be the big fight and the big argument is, what are we going to allow to be attached to this? What are we not going to allow? Ultimately, I'm confident they'll find a way. My confidence level is probably between 80 and 90%. They'll work that out. If the House can pass it middle to end of next week, the Senate can pass it middle to end of next week, then the House will pick it up the following week, which is May 13th, May 14th. One of those days they can pass it. Then it could be signed by the president. The underlying bill, the language that I just discussed, I don't think there's going to be any changes to. Amendments aviation related have already been agreed to between the House and the Senate. Those are we know it's going to pass. We're all agreed to this. If you put forth something that hasn't been discussed, there's a high probability it's going to fail. It's really just, what are those non-aviation related amendments? What do we want to allow through that? One issue with it passing the House on the 13th or 14th and being signed after that is the current FAA authorizations only go through May 10th. So there could be a 3, 4, 5 day window where the FAA doesn't have those authorizations. For our operations and what we do, there shouldn't be an impact. That really impacts like the airline ticket tax and the FAA trust funds. We likely wouldn't see any slowdown if it remains a short-term, extension past that. Obviously, if you watch the news, there is a lot going on in D.C. You have people who are maybe calling to oust the Speaker of the House and so on and so forth. Absolute worst case scenario is, they extend this again. And if that happens, it's probably continuing on extensions until after the elections. That's not where I feel that things are going. I think that's low. Again, I'm saying 10 to 15% chance it doesn't pass in the next couple of weeks. I do think that everybody's in agreement. Everybody in DC uses the airline regularly, and they want to make sure that the group in charge of safety has what they want and need. So we think this is typically, or this is ultimately the language that we're going to see in there. We're glad to say, again, allows us a way to get above 400 feet in uncontrolled airspace for day-to-day operations. Further includes us into operations in controlled airspace above the UAS facility map. I should mention we've already had meetings with the FAA on this. We've been working towards this process for years now. When we can get it in place, let's go. The FAA feels the same way. We met the first of this week, actually, was the last time we talked about it. But they have some ideas and some things that they're ready to roll on as soon as this is signed into law. So hopefully we can find relief very soon.
Very cool. Well, everybody who's watching either here live or after the fact, if you guys want to learn more information or stay up to date on all of the most recent updates from the government affairs team, you can go to modelaircraft.org/gov and keep up to date with that government affairs blog that has all sorts of information. It's updated all the time by Tyler and his team. Tyler, is there anything else that you want to touch on before we let you go?
I don't think so. I think that covers it all. Obviously, we'll be sure to update the blog that you mentioned in AMA, modelaircraft.org. Keep an eye on those to see as soon as this bill passes chambers and ultimately, is signed into law, we'll be sure to share with our members. Most of this won't be immediate. I mean, FAA is going to be required to put a process in place. We're going to have to get that process in place. We're not going to say the law signed on a Monday and Tuesday morning, okay, we can all get all of our requests granted. It's going to take a little bit of time, but just getting it signed into law will allow us to start that work and get it implemented. And we will try to move things along as quickly as possible.
Very good. Well, Tyler, thank you, and for your whole team. Thank you guys all for all the hard work you put in, and of course, thank you for being here today on AMA Air to share this news with everybody watching at home.
Great. Well, thanks for having me on. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Lee.
Thank you, Tyler.
Thanks, Tyler. Well, Lee, there's a lot of good news there.
I for one, would like to fly a little higher.
Yeah.
My glider is begging to get over 400 feet in my uncontrolled airspace.
Yeah. I mean, and that's something directly that affects you and the folks that fly, that do soaring and glider flights. Being able to get that extra altitude has been a huge sticking point for them, and I'm glad that there's going to be a process in place to make that happen.
Well, many years ago, when I was talking to Tyler about this whole remote ID, I even put this in my letter for the final rule when they were asking our opinion, which was it would be great if we could just basically say using an app, I'm flying here, like you would a Lance, exactly as he indicated. It's like I'm going to be flying here for the next 2 hours or something. So if law enforcement or somebody had any questions, they could see that yes, I see somebody. Yes, he's suggested he's flying there, or he's logged in. Carry on, right? Just right. Fly on and carry on. So that would be very helpful. But as Tyler mentioned at the very end, all of these are great. It'd be wonderful if everything gets passed as it is, but it may take some time before it's implemented.
Well, let's switch gears a little bit here, as we like to say here on AMA Air, and talk about something else that starts in, let me check my invisible watch, exactly 1 week from today is the start of the 2024 Joe Nall event down at Triple Tree Aerodrome in South Carolina. Lee, you've been to Triple Tree and to Joe Nall. This is a really huge keystone event in our hobby, is it not?
Oh, it is. And I'm sure if people go back to the other episodes where I've returned from Joe Nall and I'm just all of, fluttered and just excited to talk about it, I'm going to be excited now to tell you that I got to speak with Robb Williams, who's the executive director at Triple Tree Aerodrome. We had a nice chat this morning. He wasn't available now because he's getting ready for this huge event, Joe Nall Week. And we had a wonderful chat to talk about it, added some things that maybe you guys weren't aware of. And I hope those of you who are watching right now, whether it's live or a little bit later, if you've never been to Joe Nall, this will encourage you to put it on your bucket list and join me next year. Because I got to tell you, after talking to it, I was like, I missed it this year because I was trying to make other events, for the AMA, but I definitely will be putting it on my calendar next year. So here's I wish I could say a short interview, but we had so much fun. It was probably maybe closer to 20 minutes, but guys, enjoy this chat with Robb Williams. Hi, everyone. It's Lee Ray with the AMA, and I'm here with the executive director of Triple Tree Aerodrome, Robb Williams, and we're going to talk about the exciting event coming up next week called Joe Nall Week. And it's a pleasure to have you on the show, Robb.
Well, thank you. Appreciate being here.
So, Robb, I've always tried to preach the good word to people about coming to Joe Nall, and I'm glad that we have this opportunity because you're probably better at describing the history of Joe Nall and the facility, because it's not just about model aviation, it's full scale too. So first, can you give us a little background about your position there as CEO?
Sure, yeah. As I've been here a little over 6 years now, and I come from an aviation family, and I grew up in Indiana, so it was all about racing, and then Dad was stationed at Grissom Air Force Base for a little bit in the reserve. And he was also a pilot as well. So I grew up around aviation. It's been a real special part of my life. I've been really blessed to do a lot of different things as far as flying a lot of different aircraft to many different places around the world. And then I got into the nonprofit world of aviation, where I was at Sun and Fun in Lakeland, Florida. Ran things there for about 6 years in their educational programs. Also had a little stop before that as a teacher. So I was also lucky to teach a little bit on the high school and the collegiate level as an aerospace professor over at Polk State College. So shout out to my Eagles over there. So anyways, I worked my way over here and I met Pat Hartness, the founder of Triple Tree, and some of the volunteers at Sun and Fun through a mutual friend. And things were just the right timing for my family and I to move from Central Florida on up here to the upstate of South Carolina. And here I am and enjoying it. And it's like you said, it's like nothing you could ever experience. And I've seen a lot of great things in my aviation career all over the world, But when that horn sounds on Friday and the people come over the hill, it is truly like something you've never seen before. You can't put it into words, and it's a special moment every time that happens.
Well, I have so many other questions to ask, but let's go back to the horn, because again,
Sure.
that's one thing about Joe Nall that some people hear about, but not everybody people know about unless you've been there. Describe what that means. Why is this horn something
Sure.
special?
Yeah, so it's basically, I'm a Florida State Seminole, so it's the equivalent of back in the early to late 90s Florida State Florida football game where people would tailgate out for weeks before they could get a ticket to it. So probably about Monday to Tuesday next week, we'll have people wait in line to be the very first in line when the horn sounds. Now that horn itself is a World War II air raid horn, is what it is. So when we plug it in and we turn it on at 3 o'clock, the line of people that come on there, they come over the hill and they're the first in line to get their camping spot. So they stake their territory early, and it's really something cool to hear. And the other unique part of it is the testing part of it. We can't really test it ahead of time, so we're always kind of hoping it works, and it's always worked.
That's good.
But it's loud. It's loud as heck when it gets out there, and it's really fun. But it's a little procession, a little parade over the line there, and they go right down the hill.
Yeah, a horde comes to mind. I've heard it's crazy, going in, but it's a celebration, right?
Absolutely.
It's the opening of a great event. And I'm going to back up one little more step, because some people aren't familiar, and hopefully you can give us the story on it. Why is it called Triple Tree? Because it's not, again, not just about model aviation, but the entire facility is called Triple Tree Aerodrome.
Yeah, so I think it's important to even take a step back from there. So in the early 80s, Pat Hartness had a fly-in at his field in Greenville. It was SC-58, so he had an actual airport there. And his part was, when he was a young man, he was kind of shooed away at an RC event and made to feel unwelcome. So he wanted a place where everybody would always come and always feel welcome. And he created that up in Greenville. But as the event started getting bigger and the city started getting bigger, they started wondering what all these airplanes were flying overhead. Back in the day, that was called the Big Bird Flying. And so he actually had a petition given to him from his neighbors to basically kick him out of the neighborhood. And he's trying to find it. The petition says "rawr" is what it's written on. There's the sound of the airplane noise. So in the early 80s, also, Pat had his best friend, Joe Nall. They went to college together at Furman, and Pat went into business, and Joe went into public service, and he worked his way up into the NTSB. So Joe was actually the master of ceremonies at the Big Bird Fly-In. And while he was working for the NTSB, he passed away in investigating an airplane accident. So they changed the name, I believe, in 81 to the Joe Nall Fly-In. And we changed it to Joe Nall Week, so it was a week long. But as that was happening, the event was growing. It was still being called Joe Nall Week, but we needed more space and more property. So in 2010, Pat and Mary Lou Hartness purchased land in what at the time was the middle of nowhere, South Carolina. And South Carolina has grown out there, lots of thanks to Michelin and B&W. But in Woodruff purchased 400 acres of undeveloped property out here. And he had a vision. He had a team of great volunteers at the time, and still does, and it's grown. And he said, I'm going to put a runway here. I'm going to put a flying field there. And people all looked at him and thought, wow, that's ambitious. Even built a lake at the time. So in 2012, after they purchased land, Pat and Mary Lou donated the property to the Triple Tree Aerodrome 501c3 nonprofit as their gift to aviation. So Pat always says this is an experiment. We're going to see how this all works, and it's been a successful experiment. Now, I mean, this is his Kiwanis Club. He doesn't do the golfing thing. He doesn't do many other things. This is his life. And there's lots of other people that believe in the vision that himself and Mary Lou created all those years ago. So the naming of the Triple Tree itself. So there were 3 large trees when they bought the property, and Pat and Mary Lou were talking, this place needs a name. What are we going to call it? And Mary Lou actually came up with the idea of, we're going to call it Triple Tree. So of those original 3 trees, only one has survived. So one had a little accident during construction, and the other one had some disease and fell apart. So they planted 3 new triple trees from the acorns from the Angel Oak on Johns Island out on the main line. So next time you're out at the main line, you'll see 3 trees strategically planted there. And they grew those trees out of Dixie cups. So little Dixie cups in their house, and they transplanted them out here. So I think it's been about 18 years since that first happened when they planted them out there. So that's how it got the name Triple Tree.
There you go. Thank you for sharing that. Because again, people just don't know. They are in the middle of the field, the middle of the road. No, they're there to celebrate. And I knew that unfortunately they had lost the originals, but it's great that they kept that story going, that they wanted to continue it.
Yeah.
And it is an amazing facility. I want to go touch on what you mentioned, which as a visitor to the event, I can't tell you how wonderful the volunteers are out there. They are so helpful. And I know you wanted to give a shout out to them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So the Triple Tree Aerodrome itself is 400 acres. When you put that into perspective, as far as size wise goes, it's about the size of the French Quarter in New Orleans, or 2.5 times the size of Disneyland out in California. So it's a Herculean task with 3 employees. So it's myself, our facilities manager Matt Crane, and then our facilities coordinator Anthony Phillips. So you can imagine that can't happen by itself. So we have a team of fantastic volunteers that I've never seen the ownership and the love of a place that I've seen here with our volunteers. Many of them will come in from during the week, will take a week of vacation off to come out here. And that's their part and their ownership, and they're a fantastic contributor. And what we started about 3 years ago is a program called Base to Final. So as you're preparing to land, is what we're basically doing. We're in sterile cockpit procedures now for our event. So no wild changes of ideas, but Base to Final turn, we have volunteers that come in 2 weeks early. We ask them to get here 2 weeks early, and they come here and they help us, and they're creating their own little community of people and getting projects done for us. And that's one of their perks also, is by coming in 2 weeks ahead of time, they get to be first in line to get their campsite. So it's a nice little trade-off for them. But I mean, when you look at the amount of volunteers that we have that contribute over 500 hours, and it's a scale, young women as young as 12 years old that I've had volunteer for me, all the way up to Pat's Uncle John at 100 years old. So we take them all, and they're all contributing, and it's fantastic to see them all come together.
They are very well appreciated out there. I remember, just for fun, my first time out there with my buddy Fitzwalker, I put a GoPro on the golf cart we rented. And interjection here, rent a golf cart. I mean, I know they go fast, but I was told you really need to get a golf cart. It saved the day. But for fun, we took that golf cart from the entrance at the top of the hill all the way down to 3D. It is just massive. And without those volunteers, it just can't happen. But there are just so many locations. You've got helicopter, you've got the main line, you've got electric, you've got the float font, vendor row, then you have 3D flying and control line. I mean, there have to be volunteers everywhere to make this event run smoothly. And you guys do a great job. I can't tell you how much fun it was and how smooth things ran.
Yeah, and we've got a fantastic golf cart vendor. Couldn't do it without them. They're one of a kind. And Ginger, that runs our golf carts for us, she does a great job with that. But we also do have transportation that'll take you all throughout the property. So whether it's golf cart transportation or whether it's bus transportation, different times. So Tommy Bain's heading that up for us, doing a great job with that. It's like you said, for those who haven't been here, if you think of a map of Disney World or you think of a sports complex, you're here, and each area has its own little discipline that it does, but they all speak the same language. Whether you're playing basketball here and baseball there, everybody plays sports, and they all have the same language they can share. And that's the cool thing is, Uncle John, when I first took the job, he said, when people come through that gate, all their problems go away, and everybody's the same height, which is cool. So everybody's treated the same, and everybody's problems go away. And that's really one of the important things that we strive for. Is this is people's vacation. They come here. We don't have Wi-Fi for them, and that's a good thing at times. And a buddy of ours, Mike Peake, said this is a people event that airplanes just happen to show up at, and he's right. He's so right. I mean, you'll have people that come from all over the world, and they want that campsite back because they're with their buddy that's 2,000 miles away, but they see them that week of Joe Nall, which is really cool.
Oh yeah. Well, the first year I went was with Fitz. I came back, and Fitz and I rented an RV. We stayed the whole week.
Yes.
That was so much fun. Made the trip from Texas. My good friend, Phil Tallman, who's a VP for AMA, he was out there. We hung out. I think some of the best fun we had was at the pond, because I think on the last day, it was just the 3 of us just flying on that pond by ourselves. It was a blast. So you have definitely the facility. Can you remind me how long that runway is, the main runway?
Yeah, so the main runway is right around 7,000 feet, and it's grass. It's 419 Tifton Bermuda grass, and it's one of the longer runways as far as airport size-wise. It's bigger than Chicago Midway, but it's a Bermuda grass runway, which is very unusual, and we do use that for our general aviation operations during our general aviation events. So we are 50-50, so half of our events are radio control, half of our events are general aviation for us.
Well, let's talk about the week at Joe Nall. So you have a schedule that you gave me, but I think you'd be better off telling the people listening and watching what it's like to be at Joe Nall. What can you do out there?
Well, the biggest thing is fly. You got flight lines that are open 24 hours a day, and there's lots of fun flying happening all along. So, and there's vendors. We have over 30, as of right now, over 35 vendors that are showing up for our event, and they're from all over the world. And so they're showcasing their latest technology for all the people to come in and purchase and test out. We've got mainline demos. So the demos start on Wednesday, and they're at 12 o'clock. And what I try to do is stage that to where on the main lines at 12 o'clock, you've got the jets and then followed by the warbirds. Then you go down to the electric line and they have their demos. Then you go back down to the 3D line. So you can actually make a little trip of it going up and down the facility to see all the demos. But as far as pre-sales go, so one thing that we're very aware of is price increases all around us. I mean, you think of what something cost a year ago or even a month ago and how prices have gone up. So we have actually kept our pre-sale prices the same since they were from last year. And there's not many businesses that can say that. We're very proud of that fact. So as of today, we're over 850 pre-registrations for the event. And that's pretty great because about this time, we're usually around 600 pre-registrations. So we'll end up with well north of 1,100 pilots for the event. And again, coming from all over the world. So the pre-registration cutoff today doesn't mean you can't still purchase tickets. Yes, you can, but you have to wait till you're at the gate to purchase them there. And also, as far as affordability goes, I do want to stress that our vendors, we are very grateful for our vendors. You know, the pilots love to show up and see the vendors and see what they have to do. And we've tried really hard again to keep that vendor cost low. So we do publish our vendor costs on our website so people can see how much it costs. So, for example, for front-facing footage at our event, you're looking at around $300. That doesn't include a tent or travel or anything, but $300 to be with thousands of pilots from all over the world for your product. So we're really happy for those vendors showing up year after year, and we know that they're a very special part of the event.
Could you touch on something that I think is also very important for people who are listening? If you don't want to get involved in, camping there and being a pilot, talk about people who just want to watch.
Yes. So Triple Tree Aerodrome, one, to fly, you need to be a registered and current member of the Academy of Model Aeronautics. So we have a great partnership with them to make sure that we, tell people to join AMA ahead of time. But if you do want to be a spectator, you need to have a person who's a member of an aviation organization sign up for you and basically vouch for you at the gate. And then you can come on down and you can be a spectator. But if you're an AMA member or you're AOPA or EA and you just don't want to fly, you just want to come hang out, absolutely. You can come on in, you can be a spectator for the day. And we do have a large amount of people that do that as well.
It's a large, I was going to say, because as someone who's a photographer, and I remember the first time I walked that flight line, amazing aircraft there. You just, your jaw will drop on not just the quality, but the size of some of these aircraft. They're humongous. And so I know that that's a joy just to see that. Not to mention the people down at 3D are putting on one heck of a show, as you said, 24/7. They can't stop. So that's also an amazing thing to watch.
Yeah, it's really cool. We do have some other highlights on Thursday, of the event. That's kind of a very busy day. So we've got the t-shirt giveaway that we've been doing with RC groups now. So Jim Graham's led a fantastic event there, and that's very well attended down there on the 3D line at 11 o'clock on Thursday. The Academy of Model Aeronautics, their national meeting is actually that evening. So we've been happy to work with Chad and his team over there to go ahead and have all the district representatives up there so they can have a good interaction with everybody while they're there. And then later on that evening, there's going to be pylon racing, and there's going to be the 3D throwdown back down at the 3D line. So it's a lot of events all the time, but as you can see throughout the week, it kind of ramps up with activity, culminating on Friday with our mainline demos. And that's when we do give away the Joe Nall Award. And that is an award that's in honor of Joe. And it's basically I call it the fun uncle, when you have a family reunion and the person that you're always excited to see. And that's really who Joe was. And I've been told how he will carry on through that award. I like to think of it as the Stanley Cup. People don't know who Lord Stanley is, but you tell the story enough and you know who Lord Stanley is. So it's our Stanley Cup for us.
You want to touch on the steak dinner?
Sure. Yeah.
I experienced that last year. That was amazing.
All right. So this is one of the cooler things. Now, at my previous employer, that's all they talked about was, you got to come for this steak dinner. It's amazing. And I've had steak dinners before. I'm like, okay. So I got here and they give you a filet. Here's your filet. and it's cook your own steak provide. Yeah, it's a legit filet. And the grill's out there, and it's a grill that they engineered at Hartness Engineering. So it's got the perfect amount of distance on it, and it cooks your steak just perfectly. And if you mess it up, it's your own fault. So you sit there and you watch it overlooking the lake. It's just a beautiful, beautiful scenery. And that lake, let me tell you, that's a cool little story. It's called Lake Montana. You're like, all right, well, why is this called Lake Montana? We're in South Carolina. Well, that lake was dug. Pat and the guys were digging on it back in the day to make a lake out of it, and realized, as Pat said, I'm going to be at this the rest of my natural born life. So he had stock in a company called Montana Power at the time and sold the stock. And after he sold the stock to finance the dam, 6 months later, the company got a new CEO into telecommunications, went bankrupt. So he got a dam out of the stock. So that was pretty lucky timing on that. But I do want to touch on something as far as finances go. We are a 501c3, and Pat and Mary Lou were the founders of it. And founders of a nonprofit can only contribute up to so much money each year. So this is now our responsibility. So there's no bailouts for us. We have to make this on our own, and we're doing a great job about it. And I think the other important thing is we do have some general aviation aircraft that fly, and those are all financed separate from any of the RC money. So the RC money that comes in helps take care of the facility, the 30,000 pounds of fertilizer that goes on there, keeping the lights on, keeping this facility running 365 days a year. So we are very cautious of that and how that's led, but we can't do this without the support of all the people who come to our events, our volunteers, and our generous donors.
Yeah, I'd like to add, again, as someone who's participated, there are tons of restrooms, tons of showers, great facilities, rocking chairs. As someone who's getting up there, I've sat in those rocking chairs myself a couple of times to just chill and relax. But you mentioned the hangar with the aircraft. You got full-scale aircraft in this beautiful hangar, but you also have a training facility off to the side. Can you touch on that?
Sure, yeah. So as far as the Learning Center was a donation from Robert Shaw, who actually helped donate the control line circles for us. So inside the Learning Center, we've got different programs that run throughout the year called ACE. So that's Aviation Centered Education. So we've got a lot of different little programs inside of there. One of them we're doing right now, it's radio control. We have young men, young women starting at about age 12, I like to do, and teach them to fly radio control in the spring and in the fall. And then we have summer camp programs. So our summer camps, we're running 2 sessions of general aviation and 2 sessions of radio control. We do that in partnership with a great teacher at Greenville Technical Charter High School. So they're a very fantastic school here in the upstate for us. They have an aviation curriculum. We work very, very well with them. During the Joe Nall week, part of the InReach that we're going to do is we're having student tours for the first time ever. So shout out to Miss T's class. We're going to see you guys on Tuesday out there. So it's going to be our first time doing student tours. And then we also have schools come out and use it for a testing facility. So Christ Church School, the University of South Carolina Aerospace, they use it for testing UAVs and rocketry. So there's always something going on here. And so inside the Learning Center, we're actually looking at expanding that further back, because we developed in partnership with Greenville Technical Charter High School the first ever state champions for aviation called Avicom. So that it's been on the 2nd year now that we've done it. We broke it up by congressional districts, and we have high schools compete in simulated flight, airman knowledge, and aircraft recognition to crown the first ever state champion for simulated flight. So that's been a really cool thing to see how that's happened. In the back of our facility, as we move back on the Learning Center here, we're going to expand that back and have more simulators for those opportunities. And then when you walk out of there, you'll see a big green patch of grass. That's future plans. That used to be a big hole in the ground, to be honest with you. It was filled with 30,000 cubic yards of dirt that they moved from the north side of the facility down. And we're looking at building a large gathering place called the flight deck. So that's going to be a place where we can have our meals. We might be able to have classrooms in the future if we ever decided to get into a school system, something of that nature. And then behind that, as you mentioned, is our aircraft hangar. So in that hangar, you've got everything that hangs from the ceiling, with the exception of the Volks plane, is a radio control aircraft. And Saul, one of our fantastic volunteers, actually built 2 scale Volks planes, and he's going to be raffling them off during Joe Nall. So there's a 45% scale Volks plane and a 75% scale Volks plane. They'll be ready to fly, and all the profits from that will go back towards our summer camp programs. But on the ground there, as far as general aviation aircraft, we had a P-51. So it's important to know that P-51 was sold last year. And all the money for that P-51 went into an endowment. So when people see something constructing out here, the P-51 will pay for it. No, that's not how we structure the endowment. The endowment is there to ensure the stability and the safety of Triple Tree and the growth of it for long term. So we can go into the endowment if we need to, but the goal is to let it grow, so we can always have money for fertilizer, or God forbid another COVID situation happens or something like that, that we have that safety net to grow. So the P-51 is no longer there, but we do have a Piper Cub, a J3 Cub. So Ben Templeton, one of our volunteers, he actually flew that to all 48 states. He's an RC and a GA pilot, both. He flew that to 48 states after his graduation, his senior year. So he's flying commercially now. So the J3 Cubs there, we have 2 Stearmans, a BT-13, an Aircam, which is a fantastic airplane.
Yeah,
so 2 engines on the back of it. So that's kind of fun. Golden Chief, and then a Mooney aircraft in the hangar. And the crown jewel of them is a 1937 Spartan executive aircraft. So there's less than 20 of them flying now. And for those of you who haven't seen it, please take a look at it. It's a magnificent aircraft. And that Spartan has been asked to fly in the AOPA 85th anniversary celebration on May 11th. So AOPA is celebrating 85 years. They've asked aircraft that symbolize 15 different chapters in aviation history to fly through the National Mall, up the Potomac, and towards the state capital. The nation's capital. So they'll be flying up there through restricted airspace. They've had to undergo briefings of all sorts of things. A chairman of our board, Sean Hartness, Pat's son, will be piloting that alongside Robb Templeton. So it'll come through there. It'll come back to Triple Tree during Joe Nall week. So we'll have everybody down their aircraft. The Spartan will come in and land. And it's not something we typically do just for safety, but this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So when that Spartan's on the ground, we're going to have a symbolic passing of the torch, if you will. So we're going to have the new generation of aviators that Triple Tree has developed. So Ben Templeton, Logan McAllister, Eva Miller. So they'll all be out there alongside with Jensen Hoke. So I've known Jensen from Florida since he was in 8th grade. So these are guys and gals who've all started in RC and have used general aviation also, but their first love is RC. So they all get in that aircraft and they'll take back off out of Joe Nall, do a couple of low passes, and then fly back out of there. So that's a really special part of what we're doing and showing that the next generation is here and ready to take care of us and ready to keep Triple Tree going for the long term.
Man, I love hearing that. I love that you're still building up the youth to keep the hobby and the joy of aviation going. So thank you guys, because I know, again, just as a modeler and just hanging out there, I know that you guys are working hard to keep the hobby and the thrill alive.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. So you've got a couple of days left. You've probably got a lot of work on your plate, and I'd love to keep chatting with you, but I know you got to get back to work because, as you said, that horn's got to blow. There are crowds of people that are coming over. I want to thank you so much, Robb, for taking out the time to chat with us. If you guys want to hear more or learn more about Triple Tree Aerodrome, go to tta.aero. And that's it. There's no .com. Just go there. You can see a whole bunch of information, especially with Joe Nall week here. Keep up with AMA Air. I'm sure we will have photos to share with you from our staff that are going out there. Also, if you want, go back to our YouTube channel and you can see some videos that I recorded at our previous times out there at Joe Nall, and it is a blast. So please, if you have never been, put it on your bucket list. Go say hi to Robb the next time you're out there and have a blast.
Thanks. Look forward to everyone being out here. Appreciate the time.
Y'all have fun.
Well, that was an incredible interview, Lee. I don't know about you guys, but I'm excited for Joe Nall, and I'm not even going to get to go this year.
I think you and I are packing our bags and going next year, Matt. I think you said you've never been. I mean, I'll take you to the steak dinner. We'll go grill together in front of the hangar, have a good chat, take some videos and pictures, and have a ball, man.
I like my steak medium, so it's nice to know I'll get to take care of that myself.
That's exactly it.
So. Well, thank you so much to Robb for taking the time to come on and tell everybody about Joe Nall. And there was stuff that he talked about that I certainly never knew. So I hope everybody got as much enjoyment out of that as I did, because I just learned so much. So Lee, thank you for handling that interview for us today. That was awesome.
You're welcome.
So a couple of weeks ago, back on April the 13th through the 15th, was an annual event that takes place down in French Lick, Indiana, at the West Baden Hotel. It is the Jim Richmond Open. It is one of the preeminent indoor free flight events that takes place every year in French Lick, Indiana, and it's named after Jim Richmond, who, if you aren't familiar with Jim, he is one of just the most prolific indoor free flight pilots that we've seen over the last, how many decades at this point? Quite a few. Unfortunately, we lost Jim back in December, and this year was a little bit of a special year for the Jim Richmond Open. They did some very nice things to help kind of shine a light on Jim's amazing career in aviation. I mean, just some of the things that he was able to accomplish. He was indoor world champion 8 different times. He also won 3 silver medals and 2 bronze medals. He has set 8 world indoor records, approximately 60 national indoor records, indoor national champion in 1970, 71, 72, 86, United States Indoor Championship Grand Champion in 1988, member of the Model Aviation and National Free Flight Society Halls of Fame. Plane designs achieved National Free Flight Society Plane of the Year status in multiple years, recipient of multiple awards over the years. He was an engineer, has had 33 patents for mechanism designs, which I think is pretty amazing. And we could talk forever about all the accomplishments that Jim had. But I was really excited that we were able to send some folks down to West Baden this year to the Jim Richmond Open to kind of be there and be on hand for all, as they kind of celebrated Jim's life and all of his accomplishments. I know his wife, Mariana, was there, as well as quite a few representatives from the AMA and the NAA. So we've got a great blog post up over at the AMA Foundation page at modelaircraft.org/AMA Foundation. I think I said that right. We'll put a AMA modelaircraft.org/foundation. Sorry, lot to remember. Feel free to go check that blog post out. There's a lot of great information, some photos and things there. It was just a really cool time, I think, to get everybody in one place. People that love indoor free flight and the guys that go fly at the Jim Richmond Open. That's an event that I have been to. It's an incredible event at a beautiful location. And they really put on a great event for Jim and his legacy. So thank you to the AMA Foundation team who got to go down there and be part of that, as well as some of our council members that were there as well. So Lee, any indoor free flight experience from your end of things?
A Gillows model I might just toss inside a building. I don't, not to that level, no.
Oh, well, it's close enough, I suppose.
Well, my son used to throw his little Gillows rubber band model at the church gym. So does that count?
Hey, yeah, no, I think that does count, actually. I think that does count.
Pretty sure those flights were under 10 seconds, though.
Yeah, I don't think that I'd get that far. I think mine would probably, well, I don't know, it would probably control glide straight to the ground is where I think I would end up falling there. So let's move on from there. We want to talk about a couple of updates for you guys. The National Model Aviation Museum officially opens its doors for the season next week on Monday, May the 6th. That's in just a few days. So if you are in the central Indiana area and you want to come check out the National Model Aviation Museum, you'll be able to do that. There's lots of cool stuff going on in there, lots of brand new exhibits and some, there's I don't want to say a fresh coat of paint, but some new graphics that have been put up on the museum, and I'm excited for folks to see those and experience those. My team here at the AMA got to work on those.
I've got an image in there. Woohoo! I'm in the museum.
Yes, you do. That's actually right. I forgot about that. Thank you.
I don't have a plane in there, but I have a photo in there, so I'll take that. You know what? I'm going to sneak in and sign it.
You know what? for guys like you and me, I'm just as happy having a photo in there on display as I think I would be having an airplane in there. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, there's some really great stuff and some new exhibits that Michael Smith, our museum director, and his team have been working really hard on getting put together. So I'm excited for all of you guys to see that as it opens on Monday. We also have the National Fun Fly, the 2024 National Fun Fly, coming up June the 28th through the 30th. Registration is open. If you want to go check that out, modelaircraft.org/funfly has all the details for you where you can register, learn all the fun stuff we're going to have this year. If you've been to the Fun Fly before, this is going to look a little bit different. There are going to be lots of activities going on all across the site, stuff for everybody to do. We're going to have RC cars and boats. We're gonna have some paragliders actually here on site doing some paragliding, which is going to be a lot of fun to see. Paramotor. Excuse me.
Sorry, Kyle.
That's on me. Yeah. That's on me. The text is really small on my screen. That's on me and my fault.
I'm just correcting.
But yeah, no, I appreciate you looking out. But there's going to be all sorts of stuff. There's a swap shop that's going to be going on as well. So please join us. It's going to be a great time. Again, that's June the 28th through the 30th.
And I'll be there.
modelaircraft.org/funfly. And the RC Roundtable are going to be here. Lee, Fitz, and
Terry.
Terry, thank you, are going to be here on.
You've got a lot to remember. I feel for you, buddy, but yeah.
I do. As soon as I started to, I was like, oh no, I've just blanked out.
I wish you had just said the other guy, because that's usually how I'm referenced. It's Terry Fitz and the other guy. So
I actually, right in this moment, really wish I'd have said that too.
Yeah, exactly.
That would have been amazing. But you guys are going to be here, and this is going to be awesome to have the RC Roundtable, all three of you guys in one place at the IAC. I don't think you three have been here together before.
No.
That I remember. So it's going to be great to see you guys and for everybody to get to come say hello to you.
Yeah. So we will have a blast. We're bringing Plywood Overcast. We've decided we're going to bring the big plane. And Matt, I'd love for you to get your hands on the sticks to give Plywood Overcast a flight and then sign your John Hancock to the aircraft when you're done.
Look, I'm going to tell you something, Lee. I typically try to avoid when people say, "Hey, come fly my airplane." I'm like, I appreciate it. You don't want me to do that, so I'm just gonna pass. But
no. Listen, we had an 8-year-old girl flight at CEF. We have a buddy box system. You can do it. So
no. I was gonna say, but I'm going to make an exception. For you guys. So I tell you what, you bring it. I will fly it. Let's keep that buddy box on hand though. Let's try to do it that way because I don't know that I trust myself any other way with that. So it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a great time. And of course, I'm looking forward to seeing all of you here as well. So we hope you guys can join us. We've got NATS registration is also open and ready for you to sign up if you're interested in competing this year. The 2024 National Aero Modeling Championships. The registrations are open. NATS starts July the 7th and runs through August the 9th. You can go to modelaircraft.org/NATS to learn more. And if you're not going to come compete and you can't come watch the NATS, you can always use that same website to stay up to date with our NATS news throughout the event. So we're looking forward to the NATS this year. It's going to be a great time. Lee, let's talk about Club of the Month, shall we?
We shall. So congratulations to the Marymore RC Club in Redmond, Washington. They've got over 250 members, Matt.
It's incredible.
250 members.
Absolutely incredible.
And I love this image that the President Brian sent me. It's a great aerial shot with I'm guessing that's an Easy Glider. That was my guess.
So I'll be honest, it kind of looked like a Radian to me when I first saw it.
Radian, yeah. What am I talking about? It's a Radian, yeah. So yeah, definitely a Radian then. But it's just like how you can see the runway down below there in this great park.
It's a beautiful shot, I think.
Yeah, in Marymore Park. And guys, I could sit here and read the whole thing, but you can go to our Facebook page and see our little tribute to the club for this club's this month's Club of the Month. We also have their information up on our Facebook page, so you can go to modelaircraft.org to pull up Club of the Month there. But Matt and I were talking before we started the show, and I'm going to pull this up because they have a good website. And if you've watched this show in the past, one of the things that Matt likes in a good, Club of the Month would be their good website. So I'm going to pull this up real quick because I think this is great. This is a live shot of Miramore RC Club. So this is nice.
So cool.
I do. And it's a very good quality shot. So I'm kind of encouraging our clubs out there. I know that Tri-County Barnstormers has one. So a little nod to one of my favorite clubs that I go to every year. They have I'd say security cam, but it's always fun to see what's going on out there. But what a great view. I mean, just adding this picture for the Club of the Month, I really can appreciate the passion they have for their little flying site there. And it is such a great view. So again,
and
guys,
you know what my favorite thing about this is, Lee, is the fact that it's, almost noon out there in Washington at this club on a Friday. And look how busy that club is. That's amazing. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, jealous. Jealous is the word I'm looking for.
Yes, absolutely.
I'd like to be doing that, but I'm stuck here with you, Matt. I was like, what the? I should be flying. That's why I'm here. But guys, congratulations to the Miramore RC Club. You guys certainly deserved it.
Absolutely. If you guys want to learn more about the Miramore RC Club or about our Club of the Month program, you can certainly go to modelaircraft.org/clubs to learn more. And we've got Brian from the club here in the chat. We want to say hello to him. Yes, they've got training resources on the website that is available to anyone. So be sure to go check out their website. Again, congratulations to that club, to the Miramore RC Club, for being this month's Club of the Month for the month of May. If you guys are aware of our show, if you've been here before, then you certainly know one of the other things we like to do is to announce our iFly AMA cover photo contest winner each and every month. If you're not yet a member of our iFly AMA Facebook group, all you got to do is go to facebook.com/groups/iFly AMA. Answer a couple of questions. Lee will let you in. He'll know you're not a robot.
Maybe. We've had a couple of questionable people trying to get in.
Hey now.
I've closed the door. It's like their questions are questionable. Their answers are questionable, excuse me.
So we just want to make sure you're not a robot, somebody kind of coming in and do some nefarious things. So just answer those questions, and Lee will let you in. You can be a part of the amazing community that is the iFly AMA Facebook group. And one of the cool things that we do every month is we change out that cover photo for a photo that you submit, one of the photos that maybe you've taken, or it's a photo of your airplane. And we're really excited to show off the cover photo winner for the month of May. Lee, who do we got for this month?
Well, thanks, Dan. Dan submitted this photo as part of the group, and Dan Landis, this is a cool shot. I like when some stuff is staged. I have to admit that there's some things that's great when it's just sitting there, but I mean, he's got his Top RC L39 here with a full-scale L39, in a beautiful background imagery. I also want to thank Dan because I reached out to him and said, hey, congratulations. If you want to add some more details about your aircraft, please, do so in the comment section, and he did. And so I encourage you guys to go visit the iFly AMA Facebook group, go check out the cover image, go in the comment section, add some questions if you'd like. He might tell you more details about the aircraft, but it is a really outstanding and well-lit photograph. So thank you, Dan, for sharing that and being this month's winner.
And I know Dan. I've met and talked to Dan quite a bit over the years, and he's flown that L39, the full scale one, and obviously his model as well. It's so cool to get to see them both side by side like that. I'm with you. I love photos that are like that, showing off that amazing scale detail when it's sitting right next to its full scale counterpart, because you can't fake those, and you can't really miss out on some of those details when they're sitting side by side like that.
Yeah, my goal is to have my yellow aircraft P-38 when it's finished sitting next to a full-scale P-38 like this. So yeah, that's one of my goals. I'm setting it in stone right now. It's going to happen.
Very cool. Well, hey, speaking of full-scale aircraft, So, one thing we wanted to talk about as we wrapped up our show today, we had an absolutely amazing time back almost a month ago. It's been almost a full month since we had the Great American Eclipse of 2024. And we had an amazing time here at the IAC. We had somewhere in the neighborhood of about 1,000 people here on our site, here just to witness this eclipse. We had folks flying out at Site 4. We had people buddy boxing up here at the museum out on Site 1. We had people camping out all over the site here to experience that eclipse from the IAC. And we had an absolute blast here. I certainly did. I got to go around. I got to take a few photos. I was afraid I wasn't going to get to, but I did get to take a few shots. But here's the thing, Lee. I know you had plans. You had plans to go to, I think, Waco to watch the eclipse from a club there. And unfortunately, weather was just not going to cooperate very well with you down in Texas. And the last I heard, as of that Monday morning, I get a text from Lee. He said, "It's not going to happen today, guys. I hope you enjoy it." And I felt real bad for you, Lee. I felt real bad for you. And then the next day,
use kind words. Don't be mean.
The next day, I see, and I purposefully refrained from watching anything because I wanted to hear the story first, and I wanted to hear it live on the show.
All right.
I saw that Lee had posted some video here internally of him in an airplane to see the eclipse. So Lee, tell me what happened.
This is my friend Ryan Dusick, his Piper Aero. He was like, "Hey, what you doing?" I said, "Nothing." He goes, "Want to go fly to the solar eclipse?" Boom. we just got to Waco at 6,000 feet. Flew IFR, got this shot out of the window of the plane, just trying to hold the video camera steady, and experienced a most amazing view from the aircraft. This was our view. It's very interesting glow. Like, you guys had darkness and so forth, but we had this ring around us, and this is in totality right here. And that's just an amazing view. Earlier, it was bright. It was so bright, I couldn't see anything. It was just no sunglasses. But that is the view we had flying into the eclipse. Just north of Waco. So there you go. I had a blast. Thanks for asking.
I was really excited. I was like, we're going to have a great time here at the IAC. And we did. We had an amazing time. We had an incredible group show up. We had our new AMA Model Aviation Experience trailer was here. We re-debuted it with its new graphics and its new sponsorship from Wing, and we just had a lot of really great folks show up. So many people from all over the country. We had people from Oregon, from Montana, from Rhode Island, from Maryland. I mean, they were from all over the country. We had people from all over the country. I think we even had somebody here from internationally, I was told. I had not gotten verification on that. But you had to go and top me, Lee. You had to go and top me and go see it from the air. And I'm a little jealous, I got to admit.
It's good to have friends with airplanes.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Well, the funny thing is, he had just texted me earlier. I mean, I was bummed. You're right. I texted you and said, "Gosh, I really wish I could have talked to you guys first." And it was still pretty cloudy. You could see we were in between two cloud layers, so the people down below probably still had a bad view. Then he was just chatting with me, and I was like, "Why aren't you flying? I thought you talked about the eclipse." And he said, "Well, my friend didn't want to go." And then he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Whatever you're planning on doing right now." So, and it was amazing. The timing was perfect. We got there, prepped the plane, did our pre-check, took off, and we were just very lucky and got there as soon as the the shadow came across, and he was like, "Thank you so much for going with me, because otherwise I wouldn't have done this." And so it just turned out to be a really good experience.
Well, I'm thrilled that you guys got to do that. We talked about this a little bit on the last episode, I think, but in 2017, I traveled to go watch the eclipse, and that was the first time I'd ever seen one, and it was, people throw around the life-changing experience, phrase a little bit. And I don't know that I'd maybe not go so far as to say that, but it certainly left an impact. And that's why I was really excited to find out, it's going to be coming through Indiana, and it's going to be coming through Muncie. That's going to be amazing. Can't wait for that to happen and to be part of that. And was lucky enough to be part of planning some of the events that were going to be going on as well. And it absolutely lived up to expectations. And I kept telling people here in town, don't miss out. Don't let yourself miss it. You may think it's just not a big deal, but experience it and then judge it after the fact. And I've talked to a lot of people that did feel that way. They were kind of like, yeah, whatever. It's just another thing. And then they experienced totality, and they said, no, you're right. I had multiple people, not to pat myself on the back, but I had multiple people tell me I was right. And when people tell me I'm right, I'm going to tell everybody else that they said I was right. And but it was just a great time. We had an incredible time here at the IAC. The staff here at AMA, everybody on staff stepped up to volunteer and help with that event. Doing everything from running buddy boxing, helping with museum tours, with our sim trailer, to at one point cooking hot dogs when we had some food trucks fall through. We were able to get a few folks to grill some hot dogs for our guests, and we had just an absolute blast here. And I'm so glad that we got to do it. I'm so glad you got to experience totality, Lee. I was bummed for you, I really was, but I'm glad you got to take it one step further, or one step higher, maybe, I guess is a good way to put it. So.
Good job. Well, and I also want to shout out to those people who've responded, who attended and have given us some really nice feedback of the event. Mm-hmm. They were very gracious of all the staff there at AMA. I'm saying there because you guys are in Muncie, and just very felt welcome and had a good time and enjoyed being out there in this large field to experience it. And Matt, I know you've been excited the entire time, so I didn't have photos here. We didn't. I mean, they're on our Facebook page, but you took some wonderful shots as well during the eclipse.
Thank you. I got some shots, and Bryce, our producer, was able to take a lot more than I did, and got some really great shots too. You know what? I wanted one picture this time because in 2017 I had a setup, going on. I had a tripod, filters, all the stuff, 600 millimeter lens, and I got just the sun in the shot, and just got all of the beautiful eclipse shots that I could ask for. The one thing I didn't do was take any shots of crowds, of like the people watching it. And I got the one shot I wanted this year, which I was thrilled to be able to get, which had, the totality happening in the sky with folks in the foreground staring up at it. I was pumped to be able to get that shot. So I was happy. I was happy with what I got out of it. I think Bryce got some amazing shots as well. If you guys want to go over to our Flickr account, you can check that out. Yes, there it is. Thank you for pulling that up. That was the shot I wanted this year. I didn't need to get anything else. And I've already got a 20 by 30 print printed and framed on my wall at home. So I'm pretty excited about it. But
good job.
Thank you. Well, if you guys want to see more of the photos that we got from the eclipse, you can head out to our Flickr account, flickr.com/modelaviation, and check that out because we got some photos there. And Bryce also put together a really great recap video of the day's events that's on our YouTube channel. You can go check that out as well. All right. That's enough. You guys have heard enough from us today. We're going to let you guys go get back to your business here on this beautiful Friday afternoon. Thank you all so much for joining us here on AMA Air. If you have not done yet, we'd love it if you click the little like button down below, and that helps us out in the algorithm, as well as commenting as the way some of you guys have been doing. I really appreciate that. And of course, if you're not yet a member of the Academy of Model Aeronautics, head over to modelaircraft.org/join and see what the AMA can do for you. We'd love to have you as part of our AMA family. Hey, who knows? We can go out and fly together here sometime soon. Lee, thank you so much for joining me here on the show today. It's been a pleasure, sir.
Same.
And thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time on the next episode of AMA Air. Until then, we'll see you guys later.